It's 1797. The French Republic was dominating Europe, winning battles in Germany and in Italy, forcing the countries of First Coalition to accept peace. They agreed on armistice and began peace talks at Leoben. After 5 years of war, Napoleon had made a name for himself, defeating Europe's most powerful countries. In Treaty of Campo Formio, France gained territory in Italy and in Low Countries, with only Great Britain remaining at war. France aimed to weaken British economy by invading Egypt, disrupting its trade in East Mediterranean and threatening its connections to India. This was seen as their only chance to make peace with Britain, which relied heavily on trade routes to continue the war. In 1798, France invaded Switzerland, which angered Austria. While France was unbeatable on land, Britain had most powerful navy with Admiral Horatio Nelson at its head, now prowling Mediterranean Sea. Knowing large French fleet just left too long with Napoleon, but didn't know its destination. Undetected French sailed south along Italian coast. On June 9th, they invaded island of Malta, defeating the Knights of St. John. Then they sailed to Egypt, leaving strong garrisons to hold the island, while Nelson followed them consecutively. French were lucky. Nelson's fleet passes them within few miles, but because of fog, neither side saw each other. The British squadron then sailed to Alexandria, where they didn't find French fleet. Just hours later, French fleet arrived off coast of Alexandria. French capturing Malta angered Russian Tsar Paul. He was protector and Grand Master of the Order of St. John. After Napoleon landed in Egypt, Paul allied with Ottomans in Austria, declaring war on France. They assembled a large army with Suvorov as head of the army, ready to invade France. Alexander Vasilievich Suvorov, accused of plotting, he was sent in exile to small Novgorod province of Kochanokie. But fate had different plans. A letter from Tsar Paul arrived, summoning him to lead the Italian campaign. Suvorov met the emperor, who greeted him with the prestigious Medal of St. John, a symbol of trust and honor. French first made a move, invading Naples with MacDonald. But now it was Allies' turn. During the absence of Suvorov, General Kray successfully defended first attack from General Scherer, causing them to retreat. Then Suvorov arrived with his army and began the offensive on April 19th. But the movement of both armies was slowed by heavy rains. First Allied strike came at Brescia, when vanguard of Bagration with Rosenberg forces attacked it. It was also threatened from the north by Vukasovich's troops. Allies bombarded the city and stormed in, forcing French to capitulate. After that, Kray was sent to Mantua to take command of the troops besieging the fortress. Suvorov thought the French would stop at Oglio River, but Scherer, afraid, retreated behind Adda. Bagration broke into Bergamo. On April 25th, Allies reached Adda River. Austrians occupied Crema and started besieging Pizzigheten. Both armies scattered their troops, but Suvorov concentrated main forces in center for decisive attack. French resisted bravely, but being flanked from both sides, Moreau ordered a retreat. Now the road to Milan was open. Allies were in pleasant surprise. Vukašević flanked Serrurier, forcing him to surrender. French were now retreating. On morning of April 29th, Suvorov entered the city in triumph. Italians welcomed the Russian troops as their saviors. However, Suvorov didn't celebrate for too long. He began to think about new maneuvers. His plan was to attack north with Vukašević's troops and to support popular uprisings. Rosenberg's army marched through Pavia along the left bank of the Po River towards Valenza, threatening important fortress of Alexandria from the north. Meanwhile, Bagration crossed Po River and saw a large French fleet in Tortona. But Melas helped on May 9th, capturing Tortona and defeating the enemy. Now Bagration was ordered to take Novi. While Rosenberg, after being provoked by Grand Duke Constantine, attacked at Valenza, but received terrible losses, leading him to retreat. Meanwhile, fortress of Piedmont surrendered, freeing up much more needed forces for the Allies. On May 15th, Bagration took Novi. Now French troops with Victor began crossing the river on May 16, where he would meet Melas and Bagration's troops in first battle of Marengo. After tough battle, Victor lost 500 men and ordered a retreat across the river. After battle, French started a full-scale retreat to Genoa. Austrians didn't want to pursue the enemy, because their only interest was to capture the city of Turin. Meanwhile, the whole of Piedmont was in flames. Numerous militias blockaded Moreau's path to Genoa. Now allies were rushing to capture the city. Allies attacked Turin from every side, forcing enemy to surrender. While Bagration took Tortona and Bellegarde took Alexandria. In early June, MacDonald finally arrived in northern Italy. Moreau and MacDonald had planned a joint offensive against the Allies. MacDonald intended to advance towards Piacenza, while Moreau planned an attack on Tortona. With both armies combining forces, Suvorov could face a double front, which could lead to a total defeat. Suspecting the main force would attack from Genoa, Suvorov moved to Alexandria, covering 31 miles in just one day. Meanwhile, MacDonald attacked Austrian troops at Modena, inflicting heavy casualties, but receiving several sabre stabs in return. MacDonald and Victor then pushed to Parma, forcing the Austrians to retreat. Suvorov, having learned the movement of MacDonald, rushed to help Austrian troops at Piacenza. Meeting French troops on June 17th. The French initially had some success, but the Austro-Russian forces, with their superior tactics and coordination, managed to turn the tide. Over the course of 3 days, the French were gradually pushed back, suffering heavy casualties. Army of Naples lost half of his forces. It was a disaster for French army. French were now on the run, trying to escape Allies' army and regroup with Moreau. While retreating, small Austrian detachments tried to block MacDonald's way, but were driven back easily. Meanwhile, General Gray continued the siege of Mantua with 25,000 men, but did not help Suvorov pursue the enemy due to orders from Hofkriegsrat to avoid weakening the siege. Suvorov then received news that Moreau had moved to Tortona to attack Alexandria with 14,000 men. Moreau defeated Bellegarde's forces but did not advance further. Upon hearing that Suvorov was rushing to meet him, Moreau began to retreat towards Genoa. Suvorov intended to attack the weakened French in Genoa, but the Hofkriegsrat ordered him to focus on sieging important garrisons, much to his frustration. On July 22nd, French troops in Alexandria were forced to surrender. And Gray also successfully captured the key fortress of Mantua. By mid-July, reinforcements had arrived in Italy. 10,000 Russian troops, now led by Rosenberg. Meanwhile, the French were regrouping in Genoa, and MacDonald and several other generals were recalled to France. Moreau lost his position too, and was replaced by young General Joubert, who was close friend to Napoleon. Meanwhile, the Directory created the Army of the Alps to assist the Army of Italy, while Austrian General Gray moved from Mantua to Alexandria, ready for battle. The two armies met on August 14th. Joubert, shocked to see Gray's troops on his left flank, quickly realized the fall of Mantua was imminent. The French occupied a strong defensive position on high ground, with General Dombrowski commanding the right flank and Generals Watrin and Labossiere in center. On the left, the bulk of the French army, commanded by General Lemoyne and Grouchy. On north, there was Suvorov with his army. At the beginning of the battle, Allies numbered around 35,000 men, matching the French. In early morning, Gray troops attacked the left flank. The crackle of muskets began when columns bumped into French picket lines. This provoked a great racket in French camps as their surprised troops rushed into formation. Hearing skirmish on his left flank, Joubert also rushed there and was immediately mortally wounded by bullets. Joubert's death was kept secret from troops until end of the battle. General Moreau took command, while Austrian troops pushed well and almost took the heights. But Moreau arrived and restored order. Austrian offense was halted, while Suvorov ordered attack on Novi only at 9 a.m. He ordered a direct frontal attack, with Bagration on his right flank and in center Miloradovich. On his left flank was General Förster. The offensive was brave, but the Russians were not able to take the city. French positions were too strong. Russians then retreated with heavy losses. Now, French came out of the city and hit Bagratian's right flank. Watryn's troops also appeared and attacked left flank. For Suvorov, presence of Watryn was a complete surprise. But Russians were able to push him back. And then Bagration launched a new attack on Novi. French now needed to bring reserves to help defending the city. Second attack was also repulsed. French again came out to the city and attacked Russians' right flank. But at that moment, troops of der Felden arrived and reinforced Russian right and left flank. The Allies went on the offensive, pushing enemy back to their position. More attacks followed from the Russian left flank. Der Felden attacked. Russians showed incredible bravery, but French had strong defensive position, forcing them to retreat. Suvorov ordered to stop the bloody attacks. Just now Melas moved to the battlefield, who was being criticized by many for slow progress. Meanwhile, on Allied right flank, Kray began his second offensive at 9 am. He attacked with all of his forces. The attack was quite successful. Ott's forces was climbing the heights. Bellegarde stunned French left flank, commanded by Grouchy, and forced them to retreat, and headed right to Pasturana. Now Kray massed a 14-gun battery to scatter French lines. But French again concentrated all of their forces and stalled the attack. It all looked like Austrian complete victory. But French troops at the center saw opportunity and went on counter-attack, forcing Austrians to retreat. However, French did not pursue Austrians and lost several battalions. By 1 p.m. all the troops were exhausted. The battle had quieted down on the entire battlefield. The French used all of their forces, while Suvorov had powerful reserves. At 4 p.m. Suvorov resumed the offensive with his entire force, and the Melas attacked from the right flank, pressing Watryn's forces. After fierce battle, Russians entered the city. The path of retreat to Gavi was already blocked by Austrians. The Russians took no prisoners, killing every Frenchman that they caught. By 6 p.m. French were in full retreat. Meanwhile, Melas's troops attacked Dombrovsky division in Serravalle. Dombrovsky, afraid of encirclement, ordered a complete retreat. Austrians now entered the city with little opposition. While on other side Cray's troops driven the French left flank down from the heights. The enemy had no other way of retreat but a single road through Pasturana. In this village, all the troops of the left flank quickly piled up, slowing the retreat. Austrians also struck the final blow, occupying heights above the road where they unleashed fire and put French into a state of utter chaos. The French fled trying to save themselves, but not all are lucky. Austrians cut down and captured generals and remaining troops. The Battle of Novi was one of the bloodiest battles of the era, and the casualties bear this out. French had estimated 11,500 casualties, while Allies had 8,250. But French also lost 3 of their generals. Grouchy and Perignon became prisoners, while Joubert passed away in battle. After the battle, Suvorov wanted to pursue the French, but because of the lack of the supplies, he delayed offensive, while sending Cray to north. And now he moved his main army to Asti to support Austrian troops in Turin. Suvorov's hopes to conquer Genoa were dashed forever. When fresh instructions from Emperor Francis reached him, Austrians directed Suvorov to take command of a new Russian army assembling in Switzerland. This army would be formed by joining the Russian troops in Italy to another Russian army in Germany under Korsakov. When Korsakov arrived in Switzerland, Archduke Charles immediately moved north into Germany with the main Austrian army, leaving only a small detachment. Suvorov led his troops through the Swiss Alps in bold mission to join General Korsakov and expel the French from Switzerland. The campaign's climax was Battle of Devil's Bridge, where Suvorov's men courageously crossed a narrow, shattered bridge under relentless French fire. Suvorov's forces also clashed with French at St. Gothard Pass. Unfortunately, they arrived too late. Korsakov suffered a crushing defeat at the Second Battle of Zurich, sealing the campaign. This embattled coalition plans to unite armies to stave off disaster for France. The unpredictable Emperor Paul, frustrated by British provocations, then withdrew Russia from the Second Coalition. In just 6 months, Suvorov managed to take back all the territory Napoleon had gained, making him one of the best generals of the time. But now, hearing of the French losses, Napoleon returned from Egypt and took command, determined to reclaim France's glory.